You know that feeling when you're watching a game and the scoreboard just doesn't tell the whole story? Where you just know one team played better even if the stats look pretty even? Well, turns out you're onto something huge. The entire way we measure and understand sports is going through a massive, data-driven revolution.
And this quote right here, it just nails it. For decades, we've tried to understand a team's performance by just adding up what each player did. But any coach, any real fan will tell you that's not how it works. A team isn't just a list of players. It's a living, breathing system where the whole is so much more than the sum of its parts.
I mean, look at this. We're all familiar with the old stats on the left, right? Passes completed, shots on goal. They're easy to count. But they don't answer the questions that coaches are actually losing sleep over. They want to know things like, how fast can my team adapt when our plan falls apart? How are we actually breaking through their defense? Are we even communicating effectively out there? Those are the things that win championships. And that brings us to our first big idea here. We have to start looking beyond the simple numbers to see what's really happening in the game. See, the old way of doing things has a name. It's called reductionist analysis. It's this idea that you can understand a complex machine, like a team, by just studying all its little parts separately. But that's like trying to understand a symphony by only listening to one violin. You hear the notes, sure, but you miss the music completely. And what's so fascinating is that this creates a huge disconnect. You have sports scientists publishing these super detailed papers on, say, passing accuracy. But the coaches on the sidelines, they're trying to figure out why their team's whole rhythm and tempo just collapses in the last 10 minutes of the game. They're solving two different problems. And that right there, that's the billion-dollar question in sports today. How do we close that gap? Well, the answer really comes in two parts. First, we need way better data. And second, we need a whole new way of thinking about what that data actually means. Okay, so let's start with part one of that answer, the absolute explosion in technology that's letting us measure every single aspect of an athlete's performance in ways that were pure science fiction just a decade ago. The first tidal wave of new data comes from something called kinematics. It's basically the science of motion. And we're not just talking about how fast someone can run. We are talking about the incredibly detailed physics of every single movement, down to the precise angle of a joint or the force of an impact. And just look at how specific this gets. Think about it. Insoles that can map exactly where a powerlifter is putting force through their feet, smart gloves that measure the G-force of a boxer's punch, or tiny flexible sensors that tell a volleyball coach the exact angle of a player's arm to get the most power on a spike. It's unbelievable. Now, the second type of data is physiology. So if kinematics tells us what the body is doing on the outside, physiology tells us what the body's engine is doing on the inside. This is all about vital signs, fatigue, and energy all being tracked in real time. And the tech here is just, it's mind-blowing. We are talking about patches that stick to your skin and can analyze your sweat while you're playing to see if you're getting dehydrated. Or flexible, waterproof electrodes that can give a swimmer an ECG in the middle of a race. This isn't the future. This is happening right now. So we have this incredible, high-definition ocean of data pouring in from all these sensors. Kinematics, physiology, it's all there. But, and this is a huge but, is more data always better? The answer is no. A mountain of data is actually useless if you don't have the right framework to understand what you're looking at. And that brings us to the second and honestly the most important part of this whole revolution, changing how we think. It's about seeing the game not as a bunch of individual actions, but as one single, flowing, complex system. So analysts have a fancy term for this. They call a football match a complex socio-technical system. It's a mouthful, I know, but all it really means is that it's a dynamic environment where everything affects everything else. And here's the key. If you want to understand performance, you have to measure how the entire system is behaving, not just the individual pieces. So when researchers went and asked elite coaches what they really wanted to measure, they didn't say, oh, more passing stats. No way. They listed things like this. How adaptable is my team? Are we controlling the tempo of the game? How many seconds does it take us to win the ball back? See, these are all things that measure the health of the system. Let's look at a fantastic, concrete example of what this new way of thinking looks like. It's a metric called penetrating defensive lines. Okay, picture this. In the old world, we would just count this as one completed pass. End of story. But look at what actually happened here.
That one pass didn't just find a teammate, it instantly took 4 defenders completely out of the play. It unlocked the entire defense. It's not just a pass, it's a game-changing event. That is the kind of insight this new science is looking for. So when you put these two huge shifts together, the new fire hose of data and this new systems-level thinking, what does the future of sports actually start to look like? Well, it boils down to something like this. We are moving away from the old approach of just counting stuff in isolation. The new paradigm, the new way, is all about combining that amazing sensor data with a much bigger, more holistic goal. To stop just counting actions and to start truly understanding performance.
And this isn't just for teams with multi-million-dollar budgets. This new way of seeing the game is changing everything. It's giving coaches at every level better tools, it's helping athletes train smarter, and it's giving us, the fans, a much deeper, more intelligent way to appreciate the incredible strategy of the games we love.
But this whole revolution leaves us with one last really fascinating question to chew on. As we get closer and closer to perfectly measuring everything and optimizing every strategy, what happens to the stuff we can't measure? The human element, the heart, the clutch moment, the sudden spark of genius? That's a question for the next chapter in the new science of winning.